David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. Today, I have something for you which really excited me. It's always fun when you're able to discover new companies and play with new pens and designs. The pen I have for you today is from a company which is somewhat new to the marketplace. In the short amount of time they've been around, they have released a number of interesting designs, two of which I've actually purchased for myself and enjoyed very much. The company is Leonardo, and the pen that I'm going to be showing you today is one of their more recent releases, the Momento Zero Grande. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about the pen. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons, and provide a writing sample. I'll also compare the Grande model with the standard Momento Zero, showing you the differences between the two. Thanks go out to Leonardo for providing this pen for review. Leonardo Officina Italiana is a rather young company, but one whose founders have a great deal of experience in the pen world. Leonardo is truly a family business. Ciro Matroni was one of the founders of Delta, and his two children, Salvatore and Maria Francesca, have carried on the family tradition with the creation of this new company. Salvatore was responsible for the designs of several Delta models, such as the Journal, the Capri, the Amerigo Vespucci, the Momo design, and many others. Within Leonardo pens, you can see several design elements that, if you're familiar with Delta's model, look familiar. The company is based out of Caserta, Italy, which is in the southern part of the country, just north of Naples. And the pens are designed, produced, and assembled in their workshop by their highly skilled team. The pen arrives in this rather large box. It is the Grande model, after all. Inside, there is an inner box with the Leonardo logo. And inside, we have the actual box. Inside there is some use and care instructions, which I'll get to in a little bit, because those have some important instructions on there. And then here we have the pen. There is a little space for an ink bottle here. I've seen some retailers mention that it includes a bottle, and other ones don't mention it, so I'm unsure if all of the Grande models come with it. And then here is the pen. This is the Leonardo Officina Italiana Momento Zero Grande in the coffee finish. This pen is available in a number of different Italian resins, and the name Momento Zero is Italian for zero moment. I will show them later, but I've actually purchased two Leonardo pens on my own, and I've been enjoying them a great deal. In regard to this specific pen, my first impressions were that there were some aspects that typically really don't match up well with my personal tastes and preferences. But once I tested this pen and ran it through its paces, my mind was quickly changed, and the pen really won me over. I'll explain more as we progress here. This material was the first thing about the pen that kind of skews against my personal tastes. I'm typically not a fan of marbled acrylics. There's nothing wrong with them. They just usually aren't my favorites. I'm not much of a vintage guy, and this type of material for me kind of gives off a bit of a vintage vibe. But the more time I spent using this pen, the more I grew to enjoy this patterning. Let's start by taking a look at the cap. It comes to a nice point. The clip protrudes from the cap, which is all in one piece without any seams. I feel the style of the clip really matches the look of this pen as well. I've always liked wheeled clips. This is definitely one of those Delta design elements which has made its way over to Leonardo. The majority of Delta pens had wheeled clips as well. The cap angles up just under 3 millimeters from beginning to end, and then at the end of the cap there are 3 rounded bands. There is a small step down to an extended portion of the cap, which runs even with the barrel. The barrel begins with this gold band and is straight for about an inch or so before tapering down. On the barrel itself, it's engraved with Leonardo Officina Italiana and the number of this pen, which happens to be 279. As I mentioned, the barrel tapers down until it reaches the end, where we have another gold band, a blind cap, which we will discuss more about here in a minute, and the end of the barrel mirrors the end of the cap with a somewhat steep point. The cap screws off, and underneath we have this number 6 size stainless steel nib. The nib is engraved with Leonardo, their winged logo, Italy, and EF for this extra fine nib. And then here's a look at the low profile ebonite feed. I really like the curvature on this feed. In regard to this nib, I'll discuss this more about during the performance, during the writing sample, but when I started out in this hobby, I really tried a couple of different nib sizes and found for me that fines and extra fines were really a bit scratchy and bit into the page and generally didn't have the greatest ink flow. So for the longest time, I was strictly a medium kind of guy. Over the last couple of years, however, I've been more willing to step out of my comfort zone and experiment with different nib sizes and grinds. I've discovered some fantastic nibs which I love that are not mediums. I think what happened was that the first few non-medium nibs that I tried weren't of the greatest quality, so I really truly wasn't experiencing what higher quality nibs, even higher quality stainless steel nibs, bring to the table. That being said, the extra fine nib on this Leonardo is outstanding. It is decently smooth, it doesn't bite into the page or have an overabundance of feedback, and it has a really good ink flow as well. It is really a joy to write with. The section begins with a metal flare. This is a rather unique tiered section design. The flat portion of this section is rather short. It angles up to the remainder of the section. We have the cap threads, which I don't find to be sharp or uncomfortable. Then a step up to the barrel. At first glance, I thought this might be a little bit uncomfortable and feel like your grip was being forced into the smaller area, but the angle of this section feels very comfortable when you grip it. And the step up is set far back enough that it is out of your way. I really like the weight of this Momento Zero Grande. It feels significant in your hand. I'll show you the Grande and how it compares to the standard Momento Zero here in a bit, but the Grande feels more than just simply a larger version of that pen. The cap does post, and it does post securely. While it does add a bit of length to the pen, I feel that the cap is light enough where it won't backweight or throw off the balance of this pen at all. So if you are someone who likes to post your caps, this is a perfect pen for you. The pen utilizes a captured converter filling system. When I first received this pen, I was trying to actually remove this converter to see how easy it was to clean, and it really wasn't wanting to come out. And I didn't want to break it, but I was trying to determine if you could remove it or if it was affixed. And it was about that time that I actually took a look at the use and care guide. Okay. You know, that's a typical guide. We looked at the instructions second. But very clearly, there is a card that is included in here that says, basically, this piston is fixed and don't try to remove it. So you should actually take a look and read the instructions first rather than second. So what is a captured converter? What it means is that this rather large converter is affixed to the section, so it's not coming off, even to clean it. It does have a decent ink capacity, which is nice. And this long knob on the converter has a nice Greek key pattern engraved on it, as well as some Leonardo branding. The converter also has something I really like, which is this ratcheting system, which prevents you from overturning the pen. Plus, it just sounds cool. So here's what the ratcheting system sounds like, which is kind of cool. I mentioned the blind cap previously. What happens is you actually remove the blind cap from the section, and then you can see here that the end of that captured converter pokes through the end. This was another common design element of Delta. In theory, it exists so you can ink the pen without needing to remove the section from the barrel, and it does work well. It's just that in my personal preference, I enjoy removing the barrel so I can get a good look at the converter just to make sure that I achieved a sufficient fill. But the blind cap is a nice feature. The Leonardo Momento Zero Grande retails for $285 and is available from a large number of retailers. I feel that that is a very reasonable price for what you receive with this pen. I would have no issues paying that price for this pen. For an additional cost, you can also have this pen equipped with a gold nib. But truth be told, I like this extra fine stainless steel nib so much on this pen that I don't feel I'm missing out on anything by not having a gold nib on this pen. But it is an option if you would care for it. Thanks again go out to Leonardo for providing this pen for review. Now it is time for some measurements, size comparisons, and a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande. Here it is next to a standard Momento Zero. We'll take a closer look at the comparison here in just a minute. Then here is a different version of the Momento Zero. This is a limited edition version called the Blue Hawaii. And then this is a Leonardo Fiore. Then in regard to some other pens, here it is with a Delta Dolce Vita Oro. Then here it is with a Dolce Vita Oversize. And then another Italian pen, here it is with a Visconti Homo Sapiens Magma. In regard to some uncapped comparisons, here it is with the standard Momento Zero. Here it is with the Dolce Vita Oro, and then here it is with the Homo Sapiens Magma. Get those lined up there. Now, in regard to some comparisons between the Momento Zero and the Grande, you can see here that the standard has 2 bands here as opposed to the 3, but I thought that was interesting because the limited edition Blue Hawaii that I received actually has 3 bands on it. But the standard, this is the red coral version, has 2. Also something that's interesting is you can see that the clip is actually a little bit smaller on the Grande model. It's a little thinner than on the standard model. But they both have the blind caps, and the general size is just larger on the Grande. The nibs are the exact same size. They're the exact same size nibs. You can see here that they're the exact same size. The section is somewhat similar, but it's a little bit more pronounced on the Grande, and they don't have the flare here. But they're very similar in size, or very similar in design. This one here actually has a stub nib on it as opposed to the extra fine. The stub nib is excellent as well. So, in regard to the writing sample, we have the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande, and this is an extra fine stainless steel nib. In regard to ink, what I am using is some brand new Leonardo ink, which is Leonardo Purple. This is what the ink looks like. It's a nice saturated purple that I enjoy. In comparison to a couple of other purples, this is what it looks like with the Birmingham pen company Andy Warhol Pop Art Purple. And then here's another real saturated purple, which is the Cross Violet. But I do like this Leonardo Purple a great deal. They also have some other colors that they've come out with. They have a Red Passion. They do have a nice black, as well as a sepia color. And then this is what the bottle looks like that it comes in. They're nice 40 milliliter bottles, and I like that the lid, or the opening, is plenty wide to get just about any nib size in there at all. And I've been enjoying this ink. So, in regard to the rest of the writing sample, I mentioned this during the review, but I have been a big fan of this extra fine nib. It is fairly smooth. You can get a little bit of line variation out of here. The ink flow has been fantastic. Lately, I've been using this pen a lot to write letters, and the reverse writing. While it works, it is a little bit scratchy, and in regard to some fast writing. It works fantastic. And I really, like I said, this extra fine nib kind of makes me want to try other extra fine nibs out there. I'm really enjoying it. So here we have the Leonardo Momento Zero Grande, and this is in the coffee finish. I am really enjoying this pen. This is one that just about every Leonardo pen that I have tried so far has been outstanding, and I can't wait to see what they come out with next. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.